We are now live.
What's up, good peoples? What's up, good world? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending upon what place or area you are in the world. I'm Renee John Sandy, and welcome to the Global Empowerment Cultural Summit Online panel series. This is our seventh installment. We've been having some really dynamic conversations, and we're really looking forward to this one today, which is going to be a very special one that's much needed in our global community. Um, just to give you a little background on the Global Empowerment and Cultural Summit. Well, first, let me tell you what this what this panel is about, and then I'm going to get into that. So, this is called Healing the Cypher, a conversation around implementing the arts in the quest of mental and physical health. So it's May, basically during the world. This is when we have mental health awareness. So we felt it was suiting to have a conversation of this matter and implement, sports, arts, spirituality, and other practices around that. We have a very, very dynamic group of panelists today that are looking forward to really sharing their thoughts, what they're doing in their lives, and really come to like bringing some great conversation and even creating some solutions for people and people to be even getting enlightened on certain things that could be helpful in your journey. So to give a little background of this event, the Global Empowerment and Cultural Summit, it was basically a concept that we came up with that was actually supposed to be in person, getting artists, athletes, teachers, global community leaders, practitioners, all to get in one room or just different room, different in one area, and have different panel discussion, workshops, events, concerts, community projects that we intend to do in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. We were intending to do this last year, obviously due to this global pandemic that's been happening. We weren't able to do that, so we decided that why not start this mission and start using the dynamic use of technology and start having these conversations in which we will lead up to in November 2022 to have our first in-person event in Rio de Janeiro. So hope as we're having these conversations, we're looking forward that within the next year that we're able to all meet up all in one place and really really get down and really have some great conversations around this. But in the meantime, let's get started with this one. So mental health. I mean, talking about a global pandemic, mental health is something that's very important in our global community, especially nowadays. Everyone's very concerned about coronavirus, but the effect it's been having on people being in lockdown, being on shutdown, has affected a lot of people mental health, and that's something that's not been as spoken about as much as people actually contracting the virus. So we felt like this is just a perfect time to really have this conversation and really dig deep and dive deep into this. So so without further ado, I'm going to introduce our co-moderators of this event, so they can guide the way for this beautiful event. And just to let you know, like this, we normally have about 8 people on a panel, and today we have about 12 because we felt like there was so many really dynamic people. So, that could really share a lot of information and, share their journey. So, and we also extended this an extra hour. We normally do it 2 hours, doing it 3 hours, just because there's so much to be said in this conversation. So, we thank everyone for, taking the time out, from all the panelists to all the people that are, all our viewers, on Facebook Live, the Generation Hip Hop, that are be watching this event. So, so without further ado, I'm going to get into introducing our dynamic 2 co-moderators of this event. I'm going to go ladies first, and I'm going to start with Dinan. Dinan is a dynamic coach, writer, calls herself a master communicator. And if you actually get to look at her and follow her, we'll give you all the information online. Her Instagram page, you'll find a testament to that, how she does. She's worked in over 20 years experience in corporate, I guess, a corporate America, global corporate America, whatever you want to say, the non-for-profit world, and really taking their talents and just, all her strengths and abilities and using those to really create a leadership level of transformation throughout our community. She works with a lot of clients all over the world, and really is a great, I just want to say like a true healer in itself, which is very important in our, our community these days, and using her power to, awaken others and really, and for people to be present in their lives. She's currently residing in the Netherlands. She's from America. She's also, we come from, a lot of this is coming from a musical background, so she's also got that music gene in her too, so she breaks out a note during this co-moderation said she don't, don't be surprised. So without further ado, I'm introducing Dinan Ra.
Thank you so much, Renee. Thank you for everyone in their presence, for giving your time in this energetic exchange that is conversation. And I am so very pleased and honored to be here to co-lead with Xidus and with all of you. So we hope, and our prayer for this conversation is that you get something out of it, that you take away some nugget of inspiration and action, a impetus to do something differently maybe in your life. So thank you very much. I'm honored to be here, and I appreciate you, Renee.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. Honored to have you on here, man. Yeah, just to let everyone know too, before I introduce Xidus, like, yeah, we've been a lot of tech situations going on, as we all know, with using stuff, online services. So if you start seeing some people hopping in and out, or people adding in, everyone just don't be surprised. We're gonna keep the conversation moving, and that's how we do. All right, next, introducing our other co-moderator, dynamic brother, that's located in Peterborough, United Kingdom, UK, Xidus Pain. Xidus Pain is, it's got lost for words sometimes, one of the artists, but just a multi-talented individual, a teacher, a father, a global leader, activist, educator, is educated many, he does workshops using hip hop as a tool to empower others. He uses it for people, kids in schools. He goes into prisons and does this with youth in prisons to help free the minds of people. He's as an artist also, Xidus has recorded 31 albums, I think, in 31 months. He does an album a month. I think it's 31. I might be 30, 31, it might be there, but a very talented individual. He's worked with many dynamic individuals. I've worked with Sound Street Records, I've worked with Special Ed, other very, the Philharmonica Orchestra. He's also a frequent guest and freestyler on BBC Radio in London, which most people know is one of those most popular radio stations in our world, or I should say multimedia network. He is just a dynamic individual that's always, spreading love, practicing like what he preaches, even through his arts, his words, his, metaphorical rhymes, everything, man. And you can see right now, if you see him right now, he's in the studio and right in this element at his home. So without further ado, I'm gonna introduce my brother, Xidus Pain. I have to take you off.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the introduction, brother. Yeah. And yeah, it's really nice to see everyone, and it's great to be a part of something that's like diverse, dynamic, and also a topic that never really gets touched upon when it comes to hip hop, mental health, which is a vital. So yeah, I'm just really honored to have so many different points of views from all around the world as well, coming together for a great cause. Yeah.
Absolutely. So at this point, basically, I'm going to pass the torch over. But before I do, I just want to give a special thanks to one of the panelists. She'll be introduced on a whole separate fact. But Leora Edut, she's a beautiful sister that was very helpful with helping to help co-curate this panel with us. So I just want to give you, just big shout out within that. And I know you'll get your formal introduction, and you get to share your roses, which is right next to you as well, and celebrate your roses as well, going into that. So as now, I'm going to pass the torch over to Dan and Exodus, and let's have a beautiful conversation, everyone.
Thank you. Hi, Exodus.
Oh, greetings. Are you all right?
I'm good. I'm
Yes.
very happy to be doing this with you, sir.
Likewise, likewise.
So what I'd like to do, if I can, just we'd have some brief introductions going around the Cypher, really. And once you are called on, think of it as your best and brightest of yourself, and introduce that which is you. So can we begin in that way, Exodus? Is that good?
Yeah, we can have a nice concise introduction, because I know there's a lot of us, and we could go on for days with our introductions, but if we just if we have the highlights.
Yes.
And yeah, who's gonna start this then? Let's see. Dinan, you can pick who can start the cipher, then we can pass it on.
I will, yes.
Yeah.
So let's start this torch with Steve. Steve, our Canadian brother, tell us. Give us your elevator pitch, sir. Who art thou?
Oh, you're muted, Steve.
Muted. You have to unmute.
See if I can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. You know what? A lot of my story starts in southern Canada, down near Detroit. In mid-70s, I was like 15 years old, but I was horribly bullied. New kid in the school, smallest kid bar none in the entire school, put in big garbage cans in front of 500 people and laughed at, underwear ripped out of my ass and thrown down the hall for everybody to see and laugh at. So I got involved in a lot of drugs just to kill the pain. I got a lot involved in just a lot of risky break and enters and violent stuff because I was so angry inside, and my father wasn't there for me. He was there for everybody else because he was a minister, but he wasn't there to even know what his own kids were doing. And it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but like my early hip hop story from the 70s, that kind of where I got my power back and got my shine back was at the roller rink. I was the little kid who realized that that's where everybody hung out and that's where you got your swag. And I loved the music being near Detroit, so it was all about, Parliament and the Funkadelics and Cool and the Gang and it wasn't just skating, it was rocking the red wheels. It was dancing on skates, So I became that little kid who could do like round off, 2 back handsprings, jump into the splits, press out of the splits, roll up, do a locker jump and look straight at the bullies like what you got, And so when b-boying came out later, I was already on a path that as a young dancer and reclaiming my energy. I put together probably Canada's most famous old school b-boy crew. We opened for James Brown, Ice-T, Grandmaster Flash, all these people back in the day. And when I look back as an older man, going to be 62, it was a necessary part of my healing journey to go, I'm a good person. I'm a solid person. I'm creative. I have a good heart. I want to give back. And then, you fast forward, I found the courage to go to university. I was probably one of the first b-boys to go to university. I did a master's in social work. And I was fascinated with trauma because I still have trauma and I still have anger. and I worked putting together my own program because I felt like the big ass system, the child welfare and all this often did more harm than it did good, So I started working in the high Arctic because my sister's married to an Inuit guy. I have Inuit nieces. And I started doing programs all over the Arctic where we encouraged their own culture to come into hip hop. So we would do things like throat singing with beatbox. It's become a thing called throat boxing now in the Arctic, you know, this ancient thing of throat singing. We would use their games and their sports and their stuff. So even though I would bring teams of some of Canada's top spoken word artists and dancers and everything to the north, the most important thing was that we made the kids feel that they were superstars within their own culture day one, instead of being fixated with, oh, look at the hippity hop superstars that have come north, you know what I mean? So that program has spread over the past 15 years. I mean, I'll shorten it up, but we're the largest program in Canada working with incarcerated youth. I love working with the prison kids, with the gang kids. And all my team, I got about 20 staff across Canada. We all have deeply personal stories of our own healing. And my team, we heal with each other doing the work. And that's another beautiful thing that I see. So we're all at different points. I'm an old man who's still dealing with anger issues. You know what I mean? But like anger, I try to move from here, boom, put it over here in a different place, a different relationship with my anger, because I'm a father. I'm a father of 3 older kids. You know, I got an adult son with Down syndrome and autism. He's changed my life in the most beautiful of ways. And I get a special place about, he's now part of my team when we go and we do our work, you know, to show that like, it's not like a thing you just say hip hop's for everyone. You got to actually, you know, embody it when you do it. And I can't tell you the effect that he's had on kids with disabilities and stuff being involved. So anyways, that's a quick thing on my journey, but a big important part is the organic nature of hip hop and bringing your own culture into it and celebrating that, and still paying homage to its roots, to its New York roots and stuff in the Bronx, you know, because I'm big on that. I have a lot of old friends from the Bronx. And later, Exodus, I got a massive story to talk to you about my UK connection, because I lived there in '85. So all the Covent Garden heads, and probably people you know like DJ Pogo and Billy Business and stuff, they're all old school friends of mine. Mode 2, the graph artist. So I'd love to get into how Freestyle 85 was an example of that early empowerment where we took the power away from the record companies, but that's later. Thank you for the time.
I look
grateful.
forward to that. Yeah, thank you.
Up next, we'd love to meet Daniela.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for the invite. I'm really grateful that I'm part of this beautiful group. I'm hoping to learn a lot from you all. And speaking about what I have to talk about me, I'm originally from Venezuela, and I moved to Canada 6 years ago due to political and economic situation in my country. I like to call myself a companion, really. I would say it's the best fit that I feel that suits and describes what I am. Sometimes I have to say I am a therapist. Sometimes I have to say I am a psychotherapist or an expressive arts therapist. You know, I can change my description. I don't mind changing what I am, or, you know, what describes in words what I am. Sometimes we just have to change it so that people understand what we're doing in this world. But, you know, with us, it's okay. I'm okay describing myself as a companion. And I am, as Steve said, we all have trauma. And trauma, it's been a big thing in my life as well. And I think I am here doing what I am doing because of the trauma I have experienced in my life. Also, I come from a very supportive family, very loving and supportive mom and brother. And I learned from them the importance of having support and the importance of having a support system. And once I am a cult survivor. I spent many years being part of a cult. So, dealing with coming back to the world and dealing with the trauma, it was very important to have the support of my family. So I learned, and I took it like very seriously to do the work that I do today. And I think that we have to share that, and we have to help each other all the time and get together and create community. And it doesn't matter if it's a small community, if it's a super big community, if it's an international community, but we need to get together, because I always say that good people are around the world. We're all out there doing good stuff. And it's a matter of connecting and getting together and just like giving the power to what we're doing and just continue doing the work, right? So currently I'm not working with groups, which I miss so much because I moved from Toronto to St. John, New Brunswick, and I'm only seeing clients one-on-one, which is beautiful, the work that we do, because it's very intimate and very, very unique. And you go to the source of whatever we're working. But yeah, looking forward to come back and do some group work in the future as well.
Yes, I think we all are.
Yeah, thank you very much, Daniela.
What is that?
No, I said thank you very much. That was really interesting. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much.
Cool. Yeah, can we pass it over to Chaun Pridgeon, please?
Yes.
How's everybody doing out there? So I do work with an organization called Play for Peace, and we're in, I want to say 26 countries around the world, 94 different cities. And what we do is we bring people together using conflict resolution and cooperative activities, experiential education, stuff like that. Try to promote compassion and unity in different communities that are in conflict. So I've been doing that with this organization since my senior year of high school back in the late 90s. And I continue to, do workshops and try to build up new regions and present and just work in different communities around the world. My background education-wise is in clinical psychology and sex therapy, which I have my master's in, and will be pursuing my PsyD hopefully this year. So yeah, that's me. I just like to, work with the people and just build and connect. And hopefully we'll be getting things off the ground with Generation Hip Hop Chicago sometime in the near future.
Nice. Thank you, Chaun.
Yeah, thank you.
Syntyché.
Hi, everybody. My name is Syntyché Francella, and I am a spiritual activist. I was raised as a Black evangelical. So my introduction to hip hop really came after my first Sunday school session when they showed us a photo of holy people and none of them fucking look like me. And also, spending some time in like, how did hip hop come into my life? Having such a strict family, like there was no secular music allowed at home. So I fell in love with hip hop when I heard sound that sounded familiar. And if you know anything about the Black evangelical church, it's like funeral music is as celebratory as it gets. And so that was my falling in love with hip hop. Not only did people look like me, but they were my age, and how dope it's been to grow up with artists and see how their artistry has grown. So, and in terms of my work with mental health, having survived that Black evangelical experience proves my own mental health resilience. And also, after getting a diagnosis of PTSD, realizing that I was internalizing a lot of the social justice and racial trauma that was happening in the world, watching the murder of Black men really was traumatic for me during that Trayvon Martin time to current, because Trayvon Martin looked exactly like my son. And it was a different kind of awakening for me in terms of how I wanted to show up in the world and the work that I wanted to do. So after my own diagnosis, I went back and got a third master's, because what else do you do when you're traumatized? You overachieve. And now I have grown my yoga studio into a wellness center. And we focus on traditional forms of medicine as well as clinical, and just create space for people to heal themselves in whatever way and modality that suits them. So I always joke around and say, if you need a piece of pyrite or you need Prozac, we can help you figure it out either way, right? Get your healing however you need to. And I'm just grateful to be here and really am passionate about the work of making sure that our Black bodies are safe in all spaces. So it's an honor to be here and be here with all of you, and I am complete.
Oh, thank you. And Doc, please.
Doc, I keep it short and sweet. You know, coming out of New York City, more or less I'm just a servant as well as a bridge builder. Work with several organizations, from the bartenders where we take exercise. We say the bartenders, we say have a healthy drink at the pull-up bar so you don't end up behind the wrong bars. So we basically revolutionize calisthenics, push-ups, pull-ups, dips, and all types of ways. Sometimes I like to call it the jazz of exercise, you know. And yeah, jazz is hip hop too. Theonis Monk and Miles Davis are hip hop too. So yeah, other than that, I also work with an organization called Hip Hop is Green. I'm the founder of Hip Hop is Green in New York City. And with Hip Hop is Green, we go into
I think we have a technical thing. Did he go out?
Hello, Doc. Doc, are you with us? Right.
I think we'll come back to you, Doc.
Yeah, we'll come back in a sec.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doc. Yeah, I think Doc's back now. You're glitching a bit, Doc. Yeah, so we come back and catch up with Doc in like in 5?
Yeah, I think that's
yeah.
Yeah, let's go with Daoud.
Peace. So my name is Daoud Abeid. I'm a child of and product of freedom fighters. I was raised around people who were actively in revolution, and that informed my worldview at a very young age, which led to a lot of frustration and anger. Being the child who felt insulted in school of discussions of Columbus and the Pilgrims and all that stuff that they talk about, for me, my lens, that was always disrespectful. So from young age, I was very angry at what I saw in the world and the ignorance that was constantly being perpetuated, the disregard for the real history and compassion for what happened to all of our ancestors. That led me to a pursuit of just wanting to teach. So at a very young age, at a teenager, I became a 5%er, and I was very active in that and trying to build and constantly be that voice to challenge. So, in college, I was often had to have meetings with the deans and stuff because I was arguing with professors and things of that nature, and trying to always, give a different perspective to the colonized, point of view that they were offering. And that defined a lot of my early life. But it is, again, there was a lot of anger around it, I have a family who also is very spiritually aware. So I have, mediums in my family, and I have priests and priestesses in my family in different traditions, whether it be in Ifa or practicing Native American traditions. So that also informed my worldview. My mother, got attuned for Reiki in the very early 90s. And I was raised by martial artists. So there was just this very holistic approach to different alternative things that, a lot of people weren't doing. Fast forward, in my 30s, I became attuned for Reiki. And once I started practicing Reiki on myself, I just started seeing a lot of shifts in my perspective and how the world occurred to me. I became more compassionate. I started feeling things more. My spiritual awareness shifted. I started seeing things I didn't used to see and feel things I didn't used to see. And I realized how much my anger was to my detriment. And actually, I was allowing the very things that I thought were wrong in the world to impact and impede my own ability to show up in life. So now, after doing, working with medicine people and different plant medicine, having various spiritual practices in exposure and readings and guidance from ancestral guidance and things of that nature, I'm at a place now where I'm using healing modalities to help people become self-aware, and be more connected to their spirituality and spiritual path, because I feel like that is the true revolution that we need right now. Before I thought it was physical, I thought it was this thing, but I realized that each one of us that becomes awake is a force that takes on masses of other people who would want another idea, right? It's that simple. So that's really my passion, what I'm focusing right now. I've worked with young people throughout my life. Now I work with clients in healing of all different ages. I'm teaching people how to do Reiki. That's the main modality that I use. But I also do other things and expose people to other things. But ultimately, the focus is us remembering, getting back in tune with nature, decolonizing our internal monologues, and stepping back into, finding our magic, reclaiming our power, becoming in harmony again, becoming back in balance again, so that really a lot of the stuff that we worry about just becomes insignificant. You know what I mean? And that's my path, and that's what I'm on. So, I'm happy to be here today. Yeah, peace.
Thank you very much for that. Really cool. Yeah, I can't wait to get into all the juicier questions and get like a really nice flow going. But yeah, it's really interesting to hear like where everyone's from and where they're at, and seeing how we're all pushing like a nice positive message. Like, yeah, we're gonna go back to Doc if you're there, brother.
Maybe.
You're cutting out. I think your connection. Check. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
You hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's crazy. All right, we keep it short and sweet. I'm happy to be here. Love and abundance. Everybody can hear my voice. I'm a student. I'm a servant, and I'm a bridge builder. Keep it simple. I'll pass the mic then to the next person. Love.
Thank you.
Bless, Doc. Let's hear from Flavia. How you doing, sis?
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? It's great to be here with you all. And as you may have seen in the posts about this event, And so I'm a psychologist. I work with people that have depression, that have anxiety, and almost all my patients, they have some kind of issue with suicide. And at this point of pandemic times, we are my team. I have a team that is Terapia para Todos, which means that that the name is in Portuguese, but in English it means therapy for all, and that may mean that therapy is not luxury. Therapy is not only for rich people. Therapy is not for those who are, you know, academic or anything. Therapy is for everybody. And my project is a social project that we do give therapy with quality for many professionals that are in my team that I coordinate. And we help these people around the world. It's not only in Brazil, it's around the world. We do have sessions in English, in French, in Italian, in German, and in Spanish. And we do help anyone that needs to be helped by that. And at these times that we are having so much trouble, like staying in our homes, staying alone, being aside and not getting, you know, contact with the ones we love sometimes. For example, I have a mother that she has a illness, a chronic illness, and so I cannot hug her. It has already quite an year that I don't hug her, for like just to keep it safe and all that. So my work nowadays is almost like with all my patients is for talking about the anxiety and the depression and the thoughts about suicide because of the pandemic times. So when Renee called me and taught me about the idea of this global meeting and stuff, I thought it was wonderful, because one thing that I always recommend to my patients is music. I also have a DJ that is a friend of mine that he creates twice a month new playlists in Spotify that we put on our website. So like our patients can just load it, like just go there and click and hear, so they can help. So that can help them to come down, you know, to stay more, you know, feeling more, a little bit of the healing. Is not only in the medicines, as someone said, about like fluoxetine, about Prozac and stuff, but I feel that the healing is really about how you make your patient feel. And music helped me a lot with patients with anxiety, with patients with thoughts about suicide. Of course, I choose quite a lot of a very typical music for each one, because everybody has a type of music that loves more or loves less. But in general, everybody, when they listen to the music, sometimes the symptoms of the problem of the mental health goes out, because they keep their mind just connected to the music. And something else that I want to share with you all about is that in my team, we work a lot with autism persons. So autism is very difficult to treat, because sometimes the level they have, they don't even talk, or they don't even express themselves. So when we have any work with them with music, it's not really explained in science yet, but they hear the music and it makes them come down, and because sometimes they shout a lot, they want to break things, they want to throw things away and stuff. They get very not only anxious but very excited, very in somehow aggressive. But when they listen to music, hip hop, for example, or classic music, when they listen to some music they like, they stop everything they want, they stop everything they are doing just to listen to the music and stay there, like connected to the music they're listening to. So it's very interesting how music can work for many times of mental health problems, and how we use all the kinds of music. Of course, we are talking about hip hop today. I love hip hop, and but I can tell you, buddies, that music is an element very relevant when we are talking to mental health, because mental health is really something that needs music around, not only to listen. Sometimes if the person can play or try to learn to play some instrument or anything, that helps a lot. It's a kind of healing. It's a kind of medicine that I really, really, really think that works. And with my patients, I have wonderful results. That's all for now.
Thank you very much, Flavia. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, by the way, just about like hip hop, because with me, within my sessions, when I go to schools with young people with severe cases of autism, we use hip hop because, well, lyric writing, because with rap, I find it's like anyone can rap, but not everyone can master it. Like, so it's instant gratification. Someone could simplify it and be like, yo, 1 to the 2 to the, like, like as simple as that. So that's how instant it is. Not everyone can sing right away. You feel more shy to sing, but rap is like, you just started with talking. So yeah, I just wanted to, that's why I was just like this when you were talking. I was like,
no,
yeah,
you're perfect.
I was feeling that.
Your speech is perfect. I really enjoy your contribution, because your speech was wonderful. Thank you a lot. That is just what I think about. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, thank you. And can we go to Goddess on the Go, please?
Greetings, everyone. My name is Leora. I'm psyched to be here, first of all. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan for 24 years, then lived in New York for 18 years, then moved back out here to Detroit, Michigan, where I have now been currently back for the last almost 2 years. And let's see, well, I fell in love with hip hop when I was, I think, about 7 years old. And they bought cardboard boxes, and we had those cutout squares outside at the playground, and there were a bunch of kids breakdancing, and I was just entranced by that. I grew up, my father is from Isreal, so I grew up in culture, and living here in the US, there wasn't a lot of Middle Eastern culture. So just, I've always been attracted to different people's culture, because there was just an understanding of being different. There was an understanding of food and music and respect and heart and love. And I've always appreciated being a part of that in different cultures and what that provides. So let's see. I grew up in an abusive household, went through everything you can imagine: depression, alcoholism, thoughts of suicide myself. And when I moved to New York, I ran away from that life. I almost went to prison twice, just got caught up in crowds out here in Detroit. And I moved to New York as a way of thinking that I was running away from that past life. And when I moved there, I was finding myself in the very beginning connecting with the exact same people. And I had this thought that was, everywhere you go, there you are. And so I realized, oh, shit, it's not them, it's actually me. So there's some healing over here with me. So I began my healing journey when I was 25. And I felt like I had opened up Pandora's box, and I continuously put myself in workshop and work with different coaches. And around the time I turned 30, in my early 30s, I really realized how disconnected I was from my feminine energy, that there was a part of me that just was alive from my head up, but the rest of my body had so much shame and trauma going through it that I just didn't know my body. And so I spent this time finding myself in a space of sisterhood, finding myself in a space for the first time where I was actually able to feel safe with other women, which also helped me to feel safe with men as well. And it just opened me up to yoga, meditation, energy healings, just this plethora of this world that I had no idea actually existed. And so that inspired me to start my organization called Goddess on the Go, which became a one-day event, a movement where women would come together in a beautiful space and just get to slow down. Really slowing down for all of us is really amazing for our mental health. And, I'd bring in different experts, and there would just be a day of learning and different forms of movement, really moving to get into the body, moving our hips and our bodies and opening up this whole wonderland that we have inside of us. And so I did that for 7 years. I got burnt out. I took it to Detroit and LA. I wrote a book, went on a book tour, and I burnt myself out after that from working so hard. So I took some time off. Traveled, I did some plant medicine, I went to Peru. In between my times, I've also worked with an organization in Harlem called GEMS that works with young girls who've been sexually trafficked. I bought some of that goddess work there. I also work with an organization called Power of You Teens, which is also in Harlem, that works with young girls to bring resources and empowerment and mentorship. And when I was in Peru and I was going through this whole depression and figuring out what it was I wanted to do next, because I felt there was a level of depth that I wanted to bring to my clients. I love the embodiment part. I love the goddess part, but there was something bigger inside of me that needed to be birthed, that wanted to help people in even deeper ways. And so the thing that I had myself experienced was something called family constellation therapy, which is a modality that goes back into our lineage and helps us complete things that were passed down, that were inherited in our DNA. It is part of our family's energetic system. So I'll show you a visual. If this is you, and these are your ancestors, their traumas, their beliefs all get passed through to you. And so they stand in front of you as a block. And no matter what you're doing, and like all energy work helps to alleviate some of the pain and grief that we carry. But in a family constellation, what happens is we actually reset the order of the family. So how that happens is we remove the trauma in that completion so it doesn't keep getting passed down the line. And we put the healthy, loving, abundant ancestors behind you in support of you. And what that does is it allows you to move forward and do it differently, like do it from your highest truth without feeling guilty about surpassing your ancestors, because they're actually standing behind you in support of you. And in the work, it's not only healing you, it's healing those who come before you and those who come after you. And it's around a 40-minute to an hour session. And in that time, I've seen people heal things that they've been holding on to for 30, 40, 50 years, abandonment issues, money issues, food issues, depression issues, something shifts, relationship issues. So it's amazing modality. I'm also so grateful that, you know, I'm able to share this not only with women, but also with men and children and teenagers. And I think we all come into the world with something that we've inherited. And to get a piece of your own freedom and your own sovereignty in your journey helps you to restore a certain power within you. So I'm excited to be here, to share more and to learn from all of you. I'm sitting here and I'm just so inspired from what everybody has already shared so far. Thank you.
Thank you. I can testify to the power of Leora's work, which she's an incredible leader in that way. So thank you. Next, can we please meet the sunshine that is known as Nahya?
Oh, wonderful. I'm so floored by that introduction, sunshine that is known as Nahya. Thank you so much. I absolutely love what everybody has shared. I was busy noting down everybody's points and almost quotable quotes, and I was so elated as well that we're recording this, so I could go back again and catch all the nuggets that have been shared. This is such a fantastic conversation, and also panelists and everybody that has shared has struck a chord in me. I am in response to what everyone has said, I think I will just use that almost as organically as we're speaking right now to talk about what we're doing and why it's important in this conversation. And yeah, I love how we're talking about indigenous processes for dealing with mental health. And I also saw that the poster said physical health as well. And that's important for me because I hear Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Thai speaker, the great teacher, the Buddhist. And he speaks about how aspects of life are and how it's important for us to achieve, you know, balance in life. So I want to say that my experience or my how I came into this kind of conversation. Yeah, I would say I could definitely see aspects of trauma, but I think that as the goddess was talking about perspective, how you're able to turn your process or your journey from places of trauma into full healing, and how perspective is important in all of that. I love that that aspect, because then when I see indigenous processes, systems, which I'm not too far removed from, I mean, I could I can easily remember my great-grandmother living in a rural setting and picking some of those nuggets. And you hear all these aspects of Ubuntu, which in my it's native tongue Swahili. Although in Kenya we're like we're multilingual speakers, but anyway, in Swahili, Ubuntu translates to Utu, and Utu is the aspect of humanity and being a human being, and how all of that, being a human being, is a balanced kind of life. Apart from that whole tone of how I approach my work, I'm a curator, and I host exhibitions for artists, especially artists with indigenous expressions. And I'm quite excited about hearing about everybody and what we're all doing in our own spaces to address what we're talking about today. Yeah, so that's Nahya.
Thank you, Nahya. Lovely to meet you. So I believe now we have introduced everyone, correct, Exodus?
Yeah, that is correct, Dinan. And what we're going to do is swiftly move on to the first question, which I'll read off my other monitor. So if I'm looking that way, it's not that I'm trying to say I'm not part of this. I'm just like literally, I've got two screens, but I'm listening to everyone. So the first question is, so no, it's not even a question, is it? Yeah. What has inspired you to pursue the journey in which you are currently partaking in now? And that's an open question, but I will pass it to Chaun P, please.
I would say there's many factors in why I pursue what I pursue in the field of physical fitness and in psychology and hip hop and trying to promote world peace. I grew up in a very loving family that had friends of different ethnic backgrounds, and with the belief that, you know, we're all human beings and treat people the way you want to be treated, you know. And with that, those principles led me to doing what I do with Play for Peace and Generation Hip Hop and other endeavors around the world. You know, just want to connect people. And I also believe that fitness and physical activity is just as important and connected to mental health. You know, coming out of the pandemic, just getting people to go outside and walk, you know, catching some sunlight, some fresh air. Me and playing recreational sports still was good for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people talked about feeling depressed, being, you know, cooped up, not seeing family, friends, not having that human experience, that human connection. A lot of people talked about weight gain, you know, so just getting outdoors, doing something. Physical health is connected to mental health, if you ask me. So yeah, just my background in having a family that I come from and the beliefs that I have in working with people, and it's all connected. So that's my story with that.
That's really cool. I was going to say with the Chaun P top, literally in the other room that we've got in the studio, I was listening to you know, the Helter Skelter track, Therapy. I've got it on vinyl in there, so I was just listening to that. So I just thought, yeah, I'd let you know.
No, that's what's up.
Salute P.
That's what's up.
Yeah. And next, is it Nish? No, I can't pronounce it. Nahya. Oh,
Syntyché.
pardon?
Is it?
Syntyché.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So sorry.
It's all good.
Could you say that again? And
Sure. It's Syntyché.
Syntyché. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What got me here was recognizing the need to say things out loud and feeling the healing that happened in my own body, in my own mind, in my own spirit, in my own family, when things started to be said out loud. And then the work found me, because I started in education. I started in corporate America and then education, and then ultimately now wellness center, social work. And so I think at each stage of my life, it was just initiations, if you will, as a teacher once called it for me, to get to this space and being able to use, thankfully, all of my gifts and talents, which is our human call, I believe, which impacts mental health, right? Like, once I was living in my purpose and I was really clear about how I wanted to show up in the world, healing happened as well. So how I got here was I started to say things out loud, and that emitted vibrations that created volcanic shifts in my life. And I literally walked up a volcano with a friend here on this call. And that's how I got here. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for every battle scar.
Thank you. Yeah, we can go with Steve, please. Do you want me to say the question again, or are you cool with the question?
No, I think I'm cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the thing that inspired me along the way was just feeling the energy, feeling the healing energy as a dancer in a cypher, and then kind of embodying the attitude of forever a student, in terms of my own life and in terms of building community and surrounding myself with people who were open to the idea of a whole lifetime of healing, which has kind of informed me along the way and been very exciting for me, really analytically looking at systems and power and traditional ways of counseling, and why traditional ways of counseling often don't work. When, and not to be negative on psychotherapy and this stuff, but these are positions of power that we typically, a lot of people have trauma because of power relationships and things that have happened to them. And then when I look around the world, I see us using positions of power to counsel again, and it often frustrates me. So I'm like, well, that didn't work for me because I don't like power, and my spidey sense is like, what are you going to do to me, and how are you going to manipulate me? So how do we give the young people their power? And that's why I love stuff about saying it out loud and speaking your story. And when I got to start telling my story, and then seeing prison kids go, yo, Buddha, that feels like you're telling my story. And then maybe I could tell my story. And, also learning on a scientific level that art, music, dance, traditional culture, and telling your own story is actually re-networking the brain and healing, so like science is backing up what indigenous cultures, traditional cultures have known forever, tell the story around the fire and stuff and speak it out loud and tell who you are. And so you lead by example with that healing. And I really buy into that. I really buy into that shit. I really buy into, the nature thing, man. I started out my whole journey taking probation kids on wilderness canoe trips. And now still a lot of my staff are inner city staff. They're DJs and stuff. They ain't never been in the bush. They've never been in a canoe, so I'm inspired that there's so many healing elements that exist in the world, and that we haven't given them their due and elevated them to the levels that they need to be elevated, because there's a power and control thing with traditional science and traditional medicine that we're up against, So I'm inspired that world is opening up, and that the world wants to hear from my brothers and sisters out there that are on this journey, right? Because we know that. But then how do we also not just be a novelty on that and kind of go, well, that's cute, that's nice, they're using arts and culture, you know? Nah, how do we go deep on that? So that's why I'm inspired, because I feel some shifts happening.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's really interesting what you were saying about everything kind of going back to the core, to the roots of things. That's why it's beautiful that there's a lot of talk on crystals and healing and looking within like ourselves, because it is like the elite, they're biting what people were doing anyway in their traditions, whether it's Africa, whether it's the natives that were actually in the US, like, you know, and the power of vocal, the voice, semantics. God said, "Let there be light." So words are powerful when we say certain words. Like, so yeah, I'm feeling that. Let's go to Danielle, please. Daniela.
Yes, I think what inspired me, I have to say that in my own journey, I learned that trauma is not always an explicit memory. You know, it doesn't sit in the brain or in the head exclusively. And I learned that trauma was in my body, in my whole body. And through the arts, I was able not only to see and have an image of, in whatever form. It can be like in a poem, it can be in something, in a painting, or in music, or just in a sound. I was able not only to see what was happening with myself, but also I was able to connect to my body. And the more, as the work progressed, and the more I worked in being in connection with myself and what was happening in my body, and how emotions were sitting in my body and making me be who I am, the more progress I saw in myself, and I was able to kind of legitimize my own wisdom, you know. And that was crucial for me to understand that the power of the arts, and why we have to do this work and share it and do the work that we're doing. I think that is like my first motivation is that, and also that we don't have to be experts, you know. I learned that because I always worked with musicians, I always worked as an art promoter, I always worked as a theater producer. So I was always behind the stage, and I never, like before, I never was on stage. I never called myself an artist. And I also learned that the arts can be intimidating for some people, and because they don't have the knowledge, it's hard for them to just call themselves an artist and pursue a world of an artist. So I learned also by my own story that you can relate to the arts in a very sensitive way without having the skills of a professional artist. And that also was very inspiring for me to share the work that we do, and to do the work that we do.
Thank you. You know what, I love, like, I had to write it down. It was like a gem where you said legitimize my own wisdom, and I'm like, wow, that's powerful, because we all second guess ourselves, even though we've got like gems within us, and before we drop them and then someone else drops them and you're like, oh yeah, I thought that. But yeah, that's yeah, powerful. Thank you. Yeah, can we go to Doc, please?
So look, right now, hear noise in the background is what I want to say, right? What people have, one thing that Buddha said that was key, right? A lot of times people think that it's these big or these so-called modalities that people need. What youth need more than anything else is someone that connects with them. A young lady told me one time at a juvenile detention center, she said, Doc, we don't care what you know until we know that you care. So the art of every artist is to use love as the main instrument. When we look at hip hop in this their music, right call, because we have a love for what we're doing. We have a love for the planet that we're on. We have a love for everyone that can hear our voice. So in my mind's eye, love is the message, whether it's the spoken word. That is an expression of love. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it made a lot of sense. Even when you were cut out, they can't filter your message because you were cut out a little, but the message is there, and we understand the message is love. That is amazing and powerful. Thank you, my brother. And
all love.
Just moving on to Nahya, please.
Yeah, right. So what inspires me in my work is the idea of bringing back utopia. Kenya geographically right now is bordered to the south of Ethiopia. And I usually say this to my friends after having visited Ethiopia, is I say every person of African heritage needs to visit Ethiopia. It's a pilgrimage of some sort. So anyway, Ethiopia to me and utopia are etymologically connected. And what inspires me in my work, what drives me every single day is to think about ways and ideas that we can talk about, say in media or in content production or in conversation or in expression, especially with art and creative arts, music included, is how we can talk about the place that we all remember genetically in our memory as indigenous peoples. We have this idea of how we think life needs to be lived, and it's never really left us, because coming to think of it scientifically, you were existing in your great grandmother's uterus over, if I would say, and then made your way all the way into your own manifestation generations on. So what they experienced, you already experienced as well. And so if this idea of life is supposed to be balanced, life is supposed, we all have this idea of what life is supposed to be. And I think it's Thich Nhat Hanh who says, we have these ideas because we already remember what wholeness looks like, what perfection looks like. We're all in this search for wonderfully lived out life in our own expressions, and having the authority and sovereignty, as somebody mentioned as well, to continue to be who we are supposed to be. And the arts for me is an archway, is a path towards that knowledge, towards that purpose. According to Atene Mystery School and others, and other schools of thought, you know, the archway is made up of our own desire to be the best that we can be. So when we're singing, when we're drawing, when we're painting, when we're doing sculptures, this is coming from some mystical or miraculous or whatever you might call it space that we all know exists, the reason why the universe expands every minute, some place that we know that there is another kind of fulfilling life that we all sort of can aspire to. So that's what drives me, in essence, the search for utopia, the bringing it out so that we can continue reflecting on that. The opposite of that is, you know, constantly being bombarded by content and news and media about what's wrong with the world. But the world is a paradise, and it's a fight for perspective. The war of the mind is that's what some people say, I guess. Great thinkers have quoted how the the greatest battle is won in the mind, right? So yeah, that's the biggest battle. So so what the arts provide for me in my work with Art a Glance, what the arts provide is this window or this soul or this pathway to exist in a space that you are already predetermined or predestined to experience, this world of magic, this world of fun, you know, fantasy. It sounds a little bit outlandish, but that's what inspires my work. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's really insightful. And I was going to say, if you all look in the messages, and if you want to share anything within the messages, please do, i.e. books and everything, because some of this knowledge that's been spilling, I really want to sit and look for this and read into it, read into what you're doing as well. Personally, I'm going to pass it the mic to co-moderator Dinan.
Right on, right on. Thank you. There's so much flowing through this conversation, and as you said, Exodus, it's much to marinate upon after we walk away from it. So I feel very blessed.
Food for thought.
Yes.
Plenty.
One of the things that I find or have found so interesting in this whole panini pandemic, whatever you want to call it, is how much focus there has been on, you know, not catching it and preventing the spread of it, and basically all about the fear of death. And in hip hop culture, and especially in lower economic communities, and I say that with a grain of salt, there isn't much fear of death. Because it's a ready to die mentality anyway. And so I've found a disconnect between, you know, those that are very, very, very like panicking and fearful about losing their lives. And we have a completely different story on the other end, as far as, you know what, whatever. If it's my time, it's my time. So the question on the table is, you know, how can we briefly talk about the current state of mental health in relation to that, as far as in your individual communities? I know that was my reflection, but what is your reflection about what you have seen, what you are seeing, as far as the acceptance of mental health and talking about it, you know, from a general perspective anyway? Is there a shift? Has there been a change? Is there no focus on it at all? Or is there now like a hyper focus on it? Because in this sole endeavor to save us physically, we have sacrificed ourselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So if we could just talk about that, that would be completely amazing. I feel many gems coming out of that for a lot of people. So Daoud, could you talk to us about that? What do you think is the current state and conversation of mental health from your perspective?
Peace. Well, I mean, it's funny because I totally agree with the statement you made about how people are experiencing this. And living in Bed-Stuy, which is where I live, I'm a New York native. One thing I haven't been afraid since any of this has started, because I'm very mindful of my health and wellness, and I know and trust what my immune system and body is capable of. But that's a whole other story. one thing that I observed, so there's brothers on my block, you know what I mean? And they're the, you know, the brothers who are always outside. They have been outside, been barbecuing, been playing music, been dancing, been sharing herb, been sharing out this whole time. They have not quarantined and they're all still there, right? They haven't suffered mental health issues through all of this. They actually, what I noticed is during the pandemic was reminiscent of old New York, where communities started uniting again and seeing each other and gathering and supporting each other, because this is the population of people who already face death. So it's like, what's the big deal? I could get shot. I'm not worried about a virus. I could do whatever. I ain't worried about that. And that resilience to me has really informed what's possible in the strength of what I refer to as our people and our culture. You know what I mean? And that has nothing to do with race. It is an experiential thing. And the people who live within that culture, there is a fearlessness. That fearlessness has been shocked out of a lot of us, right? So because we've lost our spirituality and our connection to ancestor and connection to ancestral tradition, we fear death, right? That fear of death is with the main tool that's used to control and oppress most of us. Because when we're afraid to die, we're not willing to take a stand. We're afraid to die, we're gonna hide, we're gonna step back. So for me, like piggybacking off of the last question, what inspires me is helping people reconnect with our traditions that let us understand the totality of what these spirits are. You know what I'm saying? What's possible, that, you know, I've spoken to the dead many times. I know, you know what I'm saying? My perspective of what's real and what's possible in the world is very different than most. So it informs my movements and how I live very differently. And for me, our people haven't really lost that. It's still there. Most of humanity has a connection to that in some way. There's some groups of people who their connection to this old ways, indigenous practices and spiritual things were severed long before everyone else's were. You know, and that happened in Europe. You know what I'm saying? We think about it, we talk about indigenous practices and we talk about our rituals and our magic, and usually that's looked at people who are more color in their skin, right? But the reality is, in Europe, all those things existed as well. You know what I'm saying? They just lost it first. And it's now time for us all, I think, as humans, if we start remembering and re-embracing these things, and like I said, claim our power back, trust our wisdom, trust our intuition and our feelings, and learn that we are guided by spirit and by ancestor. If we tap more back into that, I think that we will see a different resilience, you know what I mean, and a different boldness and a different courage and power and willingness to just be different, you know what I'm saying, and treat each other different. When you know your great grandmother's watching you, you live differently. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's missing from that. That's what's missing right now, is that we have this very quarantine lifestyle of living in our own little boxes and thinking that we can hide and put on a mask when we go outside, not just physically, but we can hide ourselves and think we're not seen. When we understand we're always seen, we live differently, we move differently. You know what I mean? And that's a big part of what I'm looking to try to help normalize. You know, the sister said earlier, these things are outlandish. They're not outlandish. You know what I'm saying? It's real. You know what I mean? And all the stuff we see in the movies and stuff that, you know, we're drawn to. Like as a kid, I was always drawn to Jedi because I knew that was real. You know what I mean? And it was a motivation for me. Right. Like, I'm going to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be able to do that. You know what I mean? And I spent so much time trying to move stuff with my mind and communicate telepathically and do all these things because I saw an example of it, right? So for me, it's like, how do we normalize that example so that more people can embrace these things? And once we do, I do think that we'll live differently. So to get back to it, as far as the mental health stuff, I think that we have to abandon all this fear and re-educate ourselves a bit about how our bodies function and what we're capable of, and stop letting these oppressive, you know, structures in society dictate how we experience these things. You know, because if they really cared about our health, they would be teaching us health as well. They wouldn't just be promoting getting a Band-Aid, getting a shot. You know what I'm saying? They would also be telling people how to eat and to exercise, and they wouldn't give you free fast food as a reward for going and doing these things. So we have to really look at all of that and understand that these are people who don't care about us. So we can't, you know what I'm saying, allow them to take care of us. It doesn't work that way, you know?
Oh my gosh, that was so much. Like the digestion. Like just from the totality of all of that, and the fact that there are so many things that the biggest thing I find laughter in is fact checkers. And people listening to fact checkers instead of tapping into themselves and knowing, does this feel like truth? Does this feel like it has anything authentic in it? And being able to trust yourself. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much.
Peace. Thank you.
Can I piggyback on that real quick?
Of course you can, Doc, please. His connection just.
I know we're missing something good right now.
Because I know you got fire burning through your veins right now, and I want to hear it.
All right. I'll keep it short and sweet. The Avatar. Watch that cartoon, The Avatar.
Oh yeah.
The Avatar shows you the science of ancestral history and ancestral activation. When the Avatar goes into the Avatar state, he's able to tap into all of his ancestors because he knows he has a consciousness that allows him access to everything that they had access to. That's what we're doing when we teach our youth to tap into their inner self. You know, somebody told me a long time ago, if you want to teach youth, tell them to see God when they look in the mirror, as opposed to seeing something else, as opposed to telling them that they're negative, as opposed to telling them that they're born in sin. Let them know when they look in the mirror, that's where they see the Most High. I just wanted to share that real quick. I'm sorry if I'm cutting out, but love.
Yes. All of that. Yes. I still watch Avatar. I still watch it because it still got gems in it, and it teaches you about everything you need to know about your energy centers, your chakras, ancestral connections, like all the bits and bobbles are contained.
It's the 360 thing, isn't it? Like just going back to what the natives were doing within their own homeland.
Yes.
And taking it and rebranding it. Like even where did they get the ideas for Jedis? Like where did they get these ideas? Like it's half of the movies told us, are telling us what happened and what is going to happen. Like all the virus, the outbreaks, and like they put it out there. So yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's right. Exactly.
Yes, completely. Oh my goodness, yes. And there's so many things in this space and time that, you know, if you would only open your eyes, have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, and be available to what is all around you. I know in my experience, like my skills, gifts, and abilities, when they opened up, it scared the shit out of me. As far as what am I looking at and what is showing up in my room? Hold on, time out. Like similar to Syntyché, I grew up in a very culty religion that, you know, said that was completely no type thing. So to actually bring it around 360, as you said, Exodus, and to be able to, as Doc said, look in the mirror and know that is God, goddess, speaking back to me, like that is the revolution that shall not be televised. I mean, that's yeah.
That's it right there. That's it.
Yeah. Flavia, I really want to hear from you as far as culturally speaking, the current state of mental health in Brazil.
Let's say that here in Brazil, mental health is not something that people gives some matter. People think that this is something that you can leave for afterwards, you know, for later on. And they wait until they don't have anything else, like they are already on the shit, they're already a mess. And is that the point that I think is not only in Brazil, but all around the world, that we must demystify the fact that mental health is something for mental illness only. Mental health is not only for mental illnesses. Mental health is something much bigger than anything else. Mental health is something that you must have so you can lead with your life, with your like day life, with your work, with your family, friends, colleagues, people on the street, actually, go to places, meet different persons and all that. So here in Brazil, I feel that at the beginning of the pandemic times, they got like a little bit less worried about, because it was just like something that was, as Mr. Shit Trump said, it was just a flow, you know what I mean? You know, it was just a flow and something just very small, nothing to worry about. Oh my God. And now I think people realize that it's not that, you know. Now people that were actually very well until now they are getting anxiety, they are getting, you know, messed up, and they are getting like real problems related to mental health. So now they are like looking for help at any place, for sometimes for emergency, because the person just starts because his business rent out and the government didn't help it a lot. So they have no money at all. They don't see perspectives for the future. So they kill themselves. I already heard a lot of stories about patients, families and stuff. They killed themselves because their business just turned it on, like just ended up because of the pandemic times. They couldn't stay open. So the economic went down. So people start to get crazy, start to get, you know, what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna pay the bills, how I'm gonna eat, how I'm gonna, where I'm gonna sleep, where I'm gonna live, and stuff like this. And to say as a psychologist, it's important that everybody knows that if you have a place to rest and a roof to be under and a place to eat and food on your plate and clean clothes to wear, and if you also have something to do, at least, even if you don't have a job, if you have something to read or to see, you have mental health established. But if you don't have all that, you are just like going to get ill and get bad and bad and bad. So everybody that has all these topics that I just said are privileges, because we have a roof to rest under it. We have food on our plates. We have like clean clothes to wear. We have something to eat or to do. And many people nowadays in Brazil, even in favelas, they are getting very, very, very worried about, because today I have something to eat, but I don't know if I would have some tomorrow. And that was already something, a reality in Brazil for a long time. But now it's worse than any time, you know. The vaccine, like, it's something that is in a rhythm very slow. So people are not getting vaccinated. So this don't help a lot. I can tell by myself, I lost 5 people for COVID, and I lost five people only from my family, only for my personal family, and friends and all that are being lost every day. I just saw a message came up that a friend just died because of COVID at this minute. And at this moment, I think that if I wasn't very well with my mental health, I would not be able to continue on this meeting, because to have a notice that someone that you love just died or something like that is terrible, but it's something that is starting to get normal, let's say, but it wasn't supposed to be normal. It wasn't supposed to be normal. Lose people is not supposed to be normal. Lose people is something that we must feel, we must do our, how can I say, we must cry, we must do everything we need in this at this point. And mental health helps a lot when you have someone to talk to, and it's not a friend, because a friend, he will give you his critics, he will judge you, he will give his opinion. But talking about mental health, when you talk with a professional, he's neutral, so he can help you a lot because he's not into the subject that is coming in. So he can help you more than anyone. Of course, like talking to friends is nice, but to have a mental health, the most important thing is to have inside of you the thought, the reflection that I need to be mentally healthy so I can help others. At my point of view, for example, as I work with that, if I don't have mental health, how can I help the other one? So I think at this point, all around the world, people must understand that if they don't have mental health, how can they help others with their mental health? Like, it's going to be like a mess, because I will mix my mental health with Renee mental health, with Daniela mental health, with Doc mental health, and everybody's going to get crazy or get ill, and it's going to be a huge problem, bigger than it already is. So my message for all people that are listening to us today, for all my colleagues that are here talking with me, like discussing this subject that is very important, is that mental health is as important as physical health. So don't think that if you go to gym, if you have a nice body, and if you look nice and you look great at the mirror, that means that you are great inside. You're not. Maybe you are just like all broken inside, but outside, because it's physical and you can see it, it's nice to see it because you look in the mirror, it's nice. So mental health is something that is inside. So if it is inside, we cannot see it, even if we look on a mirror or anything. So people must understand the big issue that mental health can be, not only in pandemic times, but during all our lives, during our childish or afterwards when we are young, and then when we are adults, and when we are going to get old someday. So that's it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Flavia. First, let us all say collectively, because I think I can speak for us all, that we express our condolences to you for your loss, and for all of the pain that comes with that. May it May it flow through you in a graceful and easy manner, that you find strength and even more wisdom from it on the other side.
Thank you so much.
And I think one of the brilliant things that you expressed, Flavia, is all about, from a shamanic perspective, the soul is seen as the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual body, and that each one is equally important. And to ignore one of those is to be not in alignment with the totality of what your soul can bring to the table. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to throw it back to Xidus now, so he can lead us through the next question.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to have a quick look at the questions here. So I will go with, right. How do you feel spirituality plays an important role in one's mental health? And that will be to is it Leora? Yeah.
Hi there.
Hey.
I feel your spiritual practices and your spiritual health is a part of your mental health. So it has to be something that you make time for all the time. I mean, your spiritual health could be just slowing down in the morning and taking time for yourself to just connect with yourself and ask yourself, how am I feeling? How am I feeling this morning? Your spiritual health can be if you're driving in your car, you just need to have a talk with yourself about what's going on. Or maybe you just need to pause and share some gratitudes. Your spiritual health can be when you're cooking your food, so you're not rushing through, but you're choosing, foods that, you put in your body that are going to make you feel good, that are going to make you feel love. So everything that you do can be a spiritual practice. It's not just sitting in prayer or sitting in meditation. And so even when you're having conversations with people, are you looking at your phone? Are you checking your text messages, or are you being present and connected to that person and actually listening to the things? Are you hearing what they're saying instead of what you think they're saying? So everything we do impacts our mental health, and it's not about perfection. So I want to take that out of the space, but it's finding the awareness in all that we do. And when we check out of our awareness, to realize we're checked out of the awareness and find a way to come back into that space.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you very much. And right, I'm gonna switch the question, if that's okay with Dinan.
Add something to that?
Oh yeah, sure.
Rocket Syntyché.
I just wanted to know all of that, and one of the things that has shifted for me is recognizing that my humanity and my divinity aren't in competition, right? Like this understanding of oneness of my being, and the doctrines that are not traditionally ours. Let me make an I statement. The doctrine that is not mine taught me that I was in competition with myself to be other than my humanity. And my humanity is my divinity. And so that understanding shifted for me so much, because then as I see with my own clients, there's so much guilt about feeling the fucking feeling that we can't even process the feeling. Like once you give yourself permission to feel that shit, for me anyway, then it was a whole nother set of work to try to figure out why and the root and all of that other kind of stuff. So you know, I can never add to Goddess on the go because that sister is fully complete and divine. And we are all expressions of divinity, and there's always more possible because the divine is just that fucking dope. So just remembering that our humanity and our divinity and is that oneness, that space right there, and it's not even an intersection because there's no angle. It's this, right? That exchange of energy and awareness really created some peace around what I understood to be emotions that then had a mental health connotation. And then the last thing I would offer is, you know, even shifting our relationship with any emotion, whether it's fear, whether it's worry, because it's information, right? So even changing how we process what it is that I'm feeling is also a different relationship because the body is the conduit for the wisdom of the divine. So you might think it's fear, but when you unpack that shit, right? Like it's, brother, go to the river. I was about to cuss. Go to the river, you know, take some seeds, like unpack that shit, sit with it, sit in circle and community with it because it won't overcome you. And from my own story and from those that I work with, once that power comes, that whatever shit I'm feeling won't consume me, that I'm actually divinely designed to hold this shit in community, man, fuck's out of here. When we do that, we'll be all right. And we almost.
Hey, Ashay, oh my God.
I just want, can I just co-sign?
Yeah, come through, because
you know, I just want to co-sign and use the word vulnerability. We use that one all the time, and you know, it's still looked at as this negative connotation, and we talk about all the time our vulnerability is our strength. But you gotta, like, it's not like a colloquial saying. You gotta actually embody that and believe that, and then you get a whole bunch of people together that collectively believe our vulnerability is our strength. Now it's some next level shit, you know, that's the next level healing thing. When we do our group work, I was just thinking about our first time in this prison in Winnipeg. They'd never had more than 10 cats come together at once out of fear, right, of the gangs internally. And we had 100 youth from 20 different warring gangs, mostly indigenous gangs, so Indian Posse, Manitoba Warriors. And this is in Winnipeg. So they come from all the little villages, they come to the big city, and the gangs just eat them up, right? That's the welcoming committee, you know? And they were terrified like shit would go down, but they all bought into a different, I think they felt like they weren't judged and we were offering a different community, you know, through hip hop. We never had one gang sign pop up the whole week. We were with them 8 hours a day for 5 days straight. But we worked closely with elders, you know, I'm just going to tie it to the spirituality thing, because they all saw themselves at, you know, they had to reinvent a new identity. It's like, oh, I'm Indian Posse and Manitoba Warriors killed my brother, so I got to kill, you know, somebody in your crew. But when the elders sat with them and explained, but you already belong, you just need to revisit it. You're part of Bear Clan. You're part of the Crow Clan. And that caring, just that caring, and then that collective recognizing that, can we go back and explore that? Can we go back and explore why you already belong and why those clans really care about you? Does the gang really care about you? You know what I mean? That just took them all in this new space where they could kind of experience and talk about their vulnerability. You know, you can't, and I'm also big, like, you can't just always keep it here in the conversation space in the head. For me, the trick working with you, how do you get to embody concepts so they sink deep in our horror, in our gut, and they stay there with you in a lasting way? You know what I mean? And we got a society that's too much on this, you know, like, let's academicize everything too much. And, you know, vulnerable people, they understand hurt and stuff, but they're fearful of moving it from here to here. That's my rant.
And it was a beautiful one. It was
that was dope. It wasn't even a rant. It was you had like so many gems in there, and it's passion. You're passionate about it, it's a rant if you're going off and it's not making sense, I think.
Well, sometimes I do.
That was nice. Chaun P, I just wanted to ask you to elaborate a piece more on what you do, and like some of the techniques that you use when you work with a certain group of people. So anything that's like memorable to yourself that you feel was like a really nice skill to share with the group.
For me, I believe the most important thing, and I've gotten in trouble for this many times working here in Chicago and working with different schools and different groups in Chicago public school system. But for me, the first and most important thing is building a connection with people or with youth, right? That's the most important thing. Because if you don't build that connection with people in general, but especially with inner city youth, they're gonna call you out on it. You know, they're gonna think that you're fake and that you're bullshitting them. And you can't do that. And just like the brother just said about, you know, trying to make everything so academic and whatnot. And of course, academics is important and plays a part. But before you get to all of that, you have to connect with people. You have to show people that you are real and that you have their interests in mind and that you care, you know. And so what I try to do is I try to just talk with and build with whatever group that I'm working with, see where we have lots of commonalities and you know, just build on the most basic human level, right? That's the most important and basic thing. And from there, all possibilities are possible, you know, and anything can happen from there. You know, I like to have my groups be very organic and not so much structured. Just whatever comes out happens. So whatever happens in the circle, that's what happens. Then we build from there and we process that and we break that down. That is the best way for me. Everything happening spontaneously. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Just building with people on a basic level and just letting it flow. And that's how you get the purest form of anything, just letting it flow.
And I just say thank you for that, like sincerely, because there's something that's happening right now in all of these spaces. And I call it the smartest person in the room syndrome. And this whole idea that the work that is being done is more for that person's glorification or their validation, instead of what the core of the work is really about, someone else. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, ego gets in the way so much. And it's like, you know, this isn't about me. You know, this is ultimately about the group that I'm dealing with. You know, and something that my pastor used to say all the time with me growing up was like, whatever you do, no matter what message you give, it isn't about you. It's about those that you're working with, those that are in front of you. So always just be humble and make sure what you're doing is to edify those that you're with.
But I would say it's okay that at the same time, your own healing is also happening.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it's about the youth we work with, but I think that's part of the beauty and the sustainability of this is that we have a lot of soldiers, brothers and sisters who are working, but they also reap the benefit of the healing also from the youth that we work with, you know? And so it's not an either or thing. It can kind of be this symbiotic thing, which doesn't exist in 99% of the workplaces out there in the world.
Yeah, that's why. No, sorry, you can go.
No, it's this thing of, and I think Syntyché just wrote it in there. That's why it's so important that we keep doing our own work, because there's the difference in it. It's the recognition that you're not perfect and perfection does not exist, versus the person that believes they are perfection because of all of the credentials that they have gotten, and therefore they are the smartest person in the room. So absolutely, Buddha, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Also adding to that, I feel that many professionals, facilitators or therapists, they feel or have the pressure that they are fixers. And honestly, we need to stop that narrative. We are not fixers. Like we don't have that responsibility. We need to approach this whole situation in a different way. Like we're not better than anybody. We can't tell the other person what to do with his life. Like we can share skills. We can empower the person. We can help the person to connect to his or her own emotions, and you know, we can share resources. And I always say I have an aesthetic responsibility with my clients, because it's through the senses and through the arts that I will help the client to connect to himself, but I will never fix his life. And we need to stop that.
And this is a problem with hip hop that we got to be conscious about, which has always pissed me off. It's kind of like, we got to pay, you know, history is important, foundation's important. You know, we have foundation as B-boys and B-girls on, you know, the movements we do. But if we're too dogmatic about this, it ceases to be a gift when we bring it to someone, because it can feel like colonialistic hip hop. You know, like you got to be a certain way in hip hop. You got to be this, and here is the healing gift of hip hop, you know? And I'm like, so where is the most healing part of your individual spirituality and your individual history and your individual culture being welcomed into hip hop? That's the most beautiful organic thing that I've seen, you know, since the early 80s that's played itself out. But when you get these kids that are so fearful and they feel like, well, I got to talk a certain way and my lyrics got to be just a certain way, and this is traditional beatbox and stuff, you know, I worry. I feel like we need to be conscious about that, because as much as I love old school and things too, I need to accept, I'm old school. You know, like I remember, you know, George Clinton is what I remember. And I don't know, I worry about that, because I work with a lot of indigenous cultures and we don't always get it right. And sometimes in hip hop, even me and my teams, we get so excited about what we've experienced that we're not creating enough of space to open it up and empower the young people to really embrace the gifts of what hip hop can be in its creativity and its spontaneity and its group building and stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, it seems to be a problem to me.
It does make sense, and what I think of when I think of hip hop is self-expression. Therefore, if I'm expressing myself, it's not going to be the same as anyone else unless they've lived with me or they've lived a similar path. And even within the voice, it's like hip hop was about being unique. So that's why even in the 90s, where you had so many groups come out, like Brand Nubian didn't sound like Onyx, like people didn't sound the same, like they were so different, and that was the beauty of it. Like Fushnikans, like it was just like everyone came from different place, even people in the same crew, like Wu, like no one really sounded the same in that. But like now it's like people were trying to sound the same, and it's just like, oh, that's where we kind of lose each other within that. But then there's still a skill in what the younger generation do now. Like, and then when we come in, because a lot of my sessions, I talk to them about hip hop, the golden era, And then they say, yeah, I kind of understand that, but listen to this beat. And then they'll play me something like, you know, Foundation, Exhibit, or Mobb Deep. And I'll be like, yeah, that's Mobb Deep. And then I'll show them the original beat from Mobb Deep. And then I'll show them who sampled, like who Alchemist sampled, you know, and or who Premier sampled. And then it goes back into like the George Clintons and like playing a Snoop or a Kendrick, and then it bridges that gap from when Doc was saying the bridge. So we're the bridge to that without it, and that's not even force feeding it to the younger generation, saying, oh, listen to this, because we're sharing. They're sharing what they listen to, we're sharing what we listen to, and then they know within themselves, they're like, there's so many gems in that, and he doesn't sound like him, so they figure it out for themselves to be themselves. Because it's a battle, it's a constant battle, because they're facing a lot with like force fed it by phones, force fed it by Instagram, Twitter, and everyone's like constantly like battling, and you're not getting the bridge, the unity. You're not getting the elders are talking down to the youngsters. I look at it as, when I do a workshop, I go in there and have an open mentality of like, not saying, oh, this is my child, but they're a child. So you've got to teach them within a way that you're not being aggressive, but like, just, you know, I could break off a little, what harm will it do for me to break off a little Chaun P in one session and go, oh, listen to this, and they'll be like, oh, and then they'll take what they like from it, and then they'll say to me, oh, X, check out, you know, Pop Smoke, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's nice, that's a nice little flow, because we're just bigging up and sharing love, going back to Doc again, and then you can tie in the whole, you don't have to curse within your lyrics, just by showing that you're not cursing within your lyrics. And then that's where the healing comes in, from the vibrations and frequencies. Because if I'm effing and blinding and then saying I'm trying to bring you something positive, like, they're going to be like, I listened to your album and you were talking about like shanking this guy, killing this guy. So it's like, I think it's as simple as leading by example, without even having to water yourself down, because there's so many other artists that cover that spectrum, like, you know, and just teach them to take the gems out, as we did when we were youngsters. We weren't all going out killing people, but we were still listening to artists that were talking about that, not glorifying it, but saying this is what we saw. Like, so yeah, I'll get into that, but into that dynamic, because it is about sharing. Like, the youngsters, they need to hear what we were listening to, rather than us say, oh yeah, our music was better than that. You know, let them hear it and make their own judgment, and show them, like, listen out for Rakim schemes, because yes, like these are beautiful.
Yes, it's breaking them from the herd mentality.
Exactly, because,
I mean, not to date myself, but when I was coming up, I mean, we didn't have all of this technological connection, as far as to compare myself with everyone constantly. Like 24/7, you can compare yourself with somebody else and be like, oh, well, I'm not going to be accepted, because in our bones is the desire to be accepted. Because if we were not in previous culture, you were dead, for lack of a better phrase. I mean, you would get cast out of the tribe and you were done. So you've got all of this vibrational stuff that's still in you. And if you can break them from this, you have to be like everybody else. You have to sound like everybody else, and that you can have your own individual expression. Yes. Exodus, that was beautiful.
And also,
thank you.
It's developmentally appropriate, right? Like it's almost like the healing in a therapeutic relationship, right? Like, you borrow your therapist's ego, you borrow your mother's ego, you borrow your caregiver's ego when you walk into a room, right? So like the little baby at the playground, you know, looks to see if the caregiver is there, right? Like, and then goes forthwith. And the same is true for artistic development, whether we're talking about it on an individual level or larger in a higher, not higher, but in a different level in terms of the collective. It's normal developmentally to borrow and to echo and to mirror, until energetically that individual can hold that channel that's coming through. So, you know, I'm 43. I'm gonna just say it. I'm 43, right? And I got into a very passionate discussion with one of the caregivers. I have an adult son, and he was just like, these kids today, which you know, Brother Buddha, like I was just cracking up inside when you were sharing, and one of the things that we talked about was, you know, this remembrance that we were those kids too, and as elders, we kind of get on our little elder, you know, geriatric, you know, echo chambers and talk about all the ways in which the young people don't, and forget that it was all young people that got me here today. You know, it's all them kids that were leaders of the revolutions in so many ways. So I just appreciate Brother Buddha, your share, and Exodus, your share, in that, you know, finding the harmony of all of it, because some of the shit that we offer to the next generation, they need to leave this shit alone. Excuse my French. Like we not offering all gems and wisdom. Some of that shit they don't need to let go. And so I just think it's just really dope to kind of remember that it's all developmental, that it's all about progression and growth and emoting and processing. And I'm complete.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true what you're saying about, like, there is certain things that we need to leave there, because as we know and as we're seeing within the news, like certain artists that we love dying young, you know, and that's through us not having a guide. People tell us what to eat, like people telling us, you know, this is good, this is not. So like as a group, like if we were to all write a book, it would cover many spectrums within life. So yeah, sorry, I need to get back to the program. I'm gonna Dinan.
Yes, sir.
Is there a next question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a plethora of questions in and of myself, because I would love to just explore, expand upon this idea of vulnerability, and how do we model that, you know, across our communities, because that, you know, is the beginnings of healing. But and to bridge into that, let's start talking about the synergy of music and art when it comes to therapy and coaching and healing and all of that. I know for myself, like I cannot live without music and art. It sets the tone for my day. If I am at the point of release where I'm like, I gotta cry, there's something with me, I need to move it. It is all about finding the right music in order to allow that release to happen. There are so many different artists that exemplify the beautiful bridge between those things. I mean, I remember when I heard Gnarls Barkley's Crazy, and just that opening, you know, line, you know, I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place.
Can you sing it?
Can I sing? I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so special about that place. It's just that in and of itself, to me, was like, oh, it was pleasant. It was special. Like, time out. Like, that's possible. And it would just, it opened the door for me to explore in different ways, right? So Daniela, do you have like a special connection with music and art, either personally or in your practice with your clients, or encouraging them? We heard from Flavia, she already said she got DJs creating playlists for folks. What about you in your practice?
Yeah, well, I only work with the arts. Only. That's the work I do. But, you know, it is very, the arts has a very powerful component, besides the fact that, as I said before, besides the fact that you can see yourself through an image. That would be the first component. I would say it's that gives the power to the work that we do. But besides that, it has a container aspect of the healing process, and which is basically what I see that helps the most in the work for people, because sometimes it is very, very hard to articulate what we're going through. So, you know, it's just hard to express. Of course, for artists, it's easier to self-express and to achieve not only self-expression, but authentic expression, which is like for me, is the highest sense of being an artist. But for people that are not used to work with the arts, it's not an easy thing to do sometimes, you know? And, you know, we can do the work progressively. It's not about creating a masterpiece. It's not about composing the best tune, or, you know, because it's not about that. It's about being in connection with our senses and connecting to what I started saying, when it's hard to articulate what we have to say and to talk about our trauma or our experiences or whatever the distress is affecting our lives, that sometimes is sometimes it paralyzes people, you know. Sometimes distress and pain and suffering is so overwhelming that people completely paralyzed and they can't continue with their lives. So in order to achieve that, you know, just to start kind of normalizing whatever we're going through, you know, and accepting and embracing that pain is not a monster that will kill us. You know, pain, I think Syntyché was saying before that those situations that we live or we go through, they're very powerful in the sense that they bring us information. No? So every experience we go through is just an opportunity to relate to that being that sometimes it doesn't have a form. Sometimes it doesn't have, it can't come out in words. No, it's shapeless. So we can maybe express it through a gesture. We don't have to do a hip hop dance, or like we don't have to be a ballet dancer just to express that what I am feeling feels like this, you know, or this. It feels like I just can't articulate it, but I can move it, or I can paint it. You know, it's like a stroke. It feels like an upward stroke or a horizontal stroke, or, you know, circular movement. And in that way, it's another way, you know, it's not the only way to connect to emotions, but I would say it's a very powerful one and an effective one. I can assure you that it is effective, an effective treatment or approach to connect with our whole being. I don't know if I answered the question, but I kind of went, you know, all over the place, but yeah.
No,
you got it completely.
Can I ask a question that someone left for us on the Facebook?
Oh yeah.
And basically it it's a question in Portuguese, like from Brazil, and it's been translated. And I'm gonna open it up like it's a cipher, so whoever wants to get on the floor and do their thing can just come in. So it is using hip hop culture to stop the feeling of loneliness or the intent of suicide is in relation just with the music, or can we attribute it to the lyrics as well? So does anyone?
Well, I would start with hip hop culture. Hip hop culture, right? So that's music, that's artistic form and visual, that's food, that's being in community, that's emoting artistry in whatever way, right? Whether you freestyle your art or whether you freestyle your rhyme or whether you hum shit, you know, like when we think about, at least when I think about hip hop, it's not just, you know, what I was listening to at the with my Walkman on the bus stop, right? Mm-hmm. It was also, how am I going to express myself in the way that I rock this t-shirt? You know, how am I gonna, you know, try to be like Janet Jackson and find a key to put on one ear? You know what I mean? Like, and while she might not be considered a hip hop artist, she was definitely, for my generation, a part of that larger movement of emotional expression and artistic expression. So I feel like wherever your medicine is, wherever you feel like you lose time, that is the medicine for you, whether it's playing that music or getting in the kitchen and eating some good eats, right? Because yes, hip hop, the Bronx, big up Caribbean culture, right? Like all of that is a part of it. So you might want to eat some yam, you know what I mean? Like however you can get it, you can get it. So I feel like it's also about the larger collective expression of the culture and how and what that may mean for us in various ways, including language, of course.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to open it up to Leora. Did I pronounce that right? Yeah. Just on the whole aspect of music and lyrics and how it affects people's mental health, as in, people with suicidal thoughts, whether you feel the lyrics and the music within, not even just hip hop, but within anything, and whether you've had to deal with anyone going through this. And
yeah, I remember, I remember being a young, angry, you know, teenager and blasting my Tupac down the highway, and how I felt just so seen and heard, and through the struggles of the pain, I could relate to somebody else's pain. It just was human. It was humanity. That was such a connection and such a solace. Like, oh, somebody feels this much pain as I feel. And so, you know, I feel that, you know, for a lot of people, the music might be the only place that they actually feel seen. They might not be able to be seen by their parents. Their parents might not have the tools to say, I see you, right? Because their parents might be in their own pain. You know, their community may be in their own pain, but, you know, maybe their peers, when they're singing that music with each other, they're collectively experiencing the pain and the witnessing in that moment. And something gets healed when we see it. When we avoid seeing it and we pretend that it's not there, that's where we actually end up suffering.
Yeah, that's so true. I was going to say a lot of people as well were saying about, like, you know, the DMX track Slippin' got them through a lot, like, and I was feeling what you were saying about, like, human, making it human, like Tupac's lyrics, and I feel DMX was so human in that if you were going through similar things, you thought, wow, someone else is going through it. And that was saving people's lives, knowing that they weren't just on that journey alone. I wanted to open up that question to like Daoud. Daoud. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. What was your question?
Oh, it was let me read that question again. So I was in the flow and then I stopped my own Cypher. I was like, when I got to your name, and you know, when the rapper stumbles. You know.
That's okay.
So it was using hip hop culture to stop the feeling of loneliness or the intent of suicide is in relation just with the music, or can we attribute this to lyrics as well? So, but you can oh, go on, sorry.
No. I mean, hip hop is a communal culture. You know what I mean? So hip hop is really about expressing yourself, finding your voice, and finding your value. I think as hip hop became a commodity and it became a business, that's when we saw the inauthenticity enter, and you found so many people actually losing themselves to participate. You know what I mean? And the reality is, like, when I think of me, because I'm 48, you know what I'm saying? So when I think of seeing hip hop come about when I was a child, it had everything to do with finding your own superpower and expressing it and being able to be celebrated in your community for that thing. So whether you were a writer or you could beatbox or you just could do the worm or you could do whatever you did, you made that offering and everyone allowed you to make that offering and you were held for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember seeing a little kid and we're battling and then they just had the worm, or someone had a backspin and they did that thing. And then they got off the mat and everybody's like, yeah, like, you did your thing. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, like, we have lost an understanding of what hip hop is because it's being dictated to us by these other factions that want to make money off of it. You know what I'm saying? So you have all these people now losing themselves and boldly expressing inauthenticity as authentic. And it's totally misguiding people. You know what I'm saying? Because the reality is, like, we can feel truth. So when you're being lied to, but you're being told it's a truth, it can cause a cognitive dissonance, you know what I'm saying? And make people really kind of confused in a way. But it's like, I always think, like, I worked with youth a lot and I usually did it through the arts. So often I taught media literacy programs in prisons or in schools that didn't have art programs and things of that nature to try to, like, re-empower young people. And I always just ask them, say, I need you to think critically. Like, do these two things make sense? Right? So one example, like, you have a young man who's talking about he's a thug and he's real and he's all these things. And I'd be like, okay, if you're all these things, your pants hanging off your butt, how can you run or fight that way? If your clothes or your whatever, or you got these big earrings on, or you do all these things, I don't see someone who's prepared to engage in the activity that you profess that you're about. So there's a disconnection here, because when I was young and we were doing things, you dressed in a certain way to keep in mind of what you were going to have to deal with. We wore army jackets and Carhartts and Timbs and all that stuff because we were going to war. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the whole reason to wear that stuff. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't because it was utilitarian. You know what I mean? And I think that now, like, young people, if they start really kind of using more discernment and looking at understanding the history of hip hop and then embracing the vulnerability of it, you know what I'm saying, and re-embracing the authenticity of it, we find our community that way, because like attracts like, you know what I'm saying, and the more boldly we live and the more loudly we are with our truth, we're going to draw a community of people who can acknowledge and embrace and accept that truth, you know what I'm saying, and we find our kinship that way. That's how the crews are formed. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how you have your rap crew or your whatever crew. Initially, it was because there was someone else in your peer group that reflected your artistry and you combined. But now it's like people combine because they want to make money. You know what I'm saying? And it's very different. So I think it's going back to, like, the love, like Doc spoke about. It's like, express your love through your art form and you're going to attract other people who love what you love and love you for how you're expressing yourself. You know what I mean? And that's very lost right now, I think. And I think it's something that those of us who understand it, it's important for us to to usher that in and introduce it to the young people and help them realize that, like, you know, our artists were just making art because they were making art. And then it became something that they could make money off of. But they weren't initially, you know what I'm saying? These artists that we love that are foundational, they did it just because they loved it and it gave something to them. It helped them feel full. It helped them feel seen and helped them love themselves. You know what I mean? And then money came after. You know, the love brought abundance is how I try to look at it. They end up being, the reciprocity was people paying to see you express your love. You know what I'm saying? You experience abundance for that. It wasn't you go and do something inauthentic because it worked for somebody else. So now I want to try to sound like them, because that's fleeting. It doesn't last. You know what I'm saying? If we look at the history of hip hop, the people who are inauthentic, they don't last. The ones who are real, they're still here. KRS-One can still rip up anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he's real. You know what I mean? And we look at the certain people who they're kind of starting to lose steam in their music because they're not being real anymore. You know what I mean? And I think that that's something for us to look. So I hope I answered the question.
No, you threw so many gems. I'm out here like writing, like my hand is getting tired. Like, yeah. Love brings abundance, and we can feel truth, and people are paying to see your love. That's powerful. Daniela?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something, because so many ideas are coming to my mind as I hear you all. But I wanted to say that writing or, you know, lyrics or any creative activity, you know, creativity is has a responsive nature. So that responsiveness that it's embedded in the creative activity, it's what helps us to shape or reshape trauma or whatever we're going through. That's like the nature that sparks in our heart in order to deal and cope with whatever situation we're going through. So I always encourage people, if it's writing, if it feels easy for you to write, go for it. If it's just moving, move. If it's painting, paint, whatever. But what it's really important is to do something that it's creative. If it's cooking also. It can be craft. It can be anything that you connect with that sense of playness also. Like children, that they don't plan. Children don't plan a play. Like they don't start like deciding, okay, you first say this. No, they just play, right? So that spontaneity that is also embedded in the creative nature is what is powerful in this work, I believe.
Can I add about just building off of that? We really go on the concept of finding your one mics in life. And when we talk to the young people about that, it's like, you know, it's not about your one mic has to be the microphone. It might be, you know, but it could be journaling. It could be beadwork. It could be going for a walk. It could be riding a horse. But what's really important is, because life's constantly going to throw shit at you. Nobody can stand there and promise that it's not going to do that. But what we can talk about is, do we have a mentality that's open to lots of different approaches to dealing with my anger and stress and anxiety that comes when the shit is thrown at you? And so, you know, I use the example as, look, you meet a young woman and you think she's the one, you're 15 years old and she rides horses and you're scared of horses. But you don't know that you don't like to ride horses till you try riding a horse. That might become a one mic for you. So having an open mentality is one of the great resiliency gifts I think that we can give young people, is don't cancel shit out until you try it. I'm not saying you got to be a B-boy or a B-girl. It might work for you, so we can explore that. But there's a million things that can become your one mics, right? And it's like a Swiss Army knife, you know, like you open up, it's not just a blade, it's got all the different utensils in it to deal with trauma and stress. And some days I got to go for a walk just to clear my head, but other days maybe I got to do something with my hands. So I'm going to do some knitting or some whatever. And I feel like that's a hip hop metaphor that we can all embrace, you know, about finding our one mics in life. And don't get old and grumpy about that shit. Try new shit when you get old, you know, be humble, be forever a student. You know, I got called out on that by my own team. They were like, Booty, you're always talking a good line, but why ain't you doing some spoken word? And I'm like, damn, yeah, okay, I'm gonna write something. And I wrote something like in 5 minutes in the prison with the kids. And now I dig it. I mean, I always loved hearing it, but now I'm digging it for what it means for me personally to release and to put and I'm 62 years old, you know what I mean? And it's like, yo, man, I'm gonna write my memoirs in poetry and spoken word and stuff because it's so, it feels like such a good release. And that's how, you know, back to a question I saw in the chat, I think that's how we can lead by example as older grumpy heads in hippity hop. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like that authenticity when they see that you're open in your brain to just be you, you know, to be vulnerable and go, I don't fucking know everything.
That's hard. That part, because I really feel like Buddha, that is amazing, because this whole idea of cancel culture is really killing the authenticity of our youth and us. I mean, let's just, the old heads and the elders as well. I mean, because in my practice, what I've found is age means nothing. You can be 62 years old and have the emotional capacity of a 7-year-old. So it is something that we have to be able to open up to, that we are modeling for those around us, that they can freely explore. And by us freely exploring and being willing to fall on our face and not be right, and to not look like perfect 24/7, and to be like, oh, you know what, I messed up right there, and that's okay, but here's what I learned from it. And to be able to model that behavior is how we get to a more discerning next generation, because they will start to trust themselves more, because we did, because they saw it. They saw that it was okay to fall on your face. They saw that it was okay to grow, and that we came to this planet not for perfection, but for growth. And growth happens through the rough stuff. And growth happens when we're willing to be uncomfortable. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. We are coming down to the wire here, because I believe we are at 10 minutes remaining. So what I'd like to do is to be able to end with it, and am I correct, Exodus, on that, or is my timing off here?
I'm not sure, because my time is I came in a little late, didn't I? So
yeah.
Oh yeah, wow, 9 minutes.
I'm telling you, when it's a good thing, it's good stuff. But I would love to go around the Cypher and just briefly tell us what gem wisdom, what practice can someone walk away with when it comes to care of self, when it comes to nurturing thy mental health, thy emotional body, thy spirituality, and thy physical temple. What bit of information can you pass along in this cipher of wisdom and knowledge that can be shared with others? And I would love to start with Doc. Doc, are you there, my brother?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. And thank you for that. I want to say peace and blessings to everybody. You know, y'all been amazing on this cipher. I just found out, you know, in the comments that Buddha and I are brothers through another brother of mine named Dazzle. So we're all connected. So that's a beautiful thing. So I'll say this, you know, keep it simple. Be easy with yourself. Love yourself. One thing I would say a lot of people overlook is the power of the breath. Take time and do some do some deep breathing. As you breathe into your stomach, breathe in through your nose. Let it fill up your abdomen and breathe out through the mouth, and just kind of let go of all the things that you feel are holding you back or impeding you or stopping your progress. Just breathe it out. Another thing I would give people is drink water. Water is something very, very beneficial. One thing, yes, ma'am. One thing I like to do in the morning for myself is when I get up and I take my shower in the morning, I imagine washing away, you know, from my body, from my mind, all the impurities. As the water hits me, I'm letting go of all these things that may have been hanging on to me, emotional baggage, I would say. I see myself, I imagine those things washing off as the water hits me in the shower. Another thing, when you first open your eyes in the morning, just give thanks. When you close your eyes, you lay down at night, give thanks. You might not be where you want to be, but being grateful for the space that you have creates another space that gives you the creativity to move into the space where you want to go. Last but not least, understand that as children of the Most High Creative, it is your job, it is your duty, it is your birthright to be a creative, to be creative. So think about, in your human being, are you being the best creative person that you can possibly be? I want to say thank you to Renee and everyone on this call, everyone listening, for allowing me. It's crazy. For some reason, it's making me tear up right now. But for allowing me the opportunity to share with you all and to listen to your testimonies. Y'all are powerful. Understand your power. Claim your power. Live in your power. Walk in your power. As I tell my son, my children all the time, never put down your crown.
Wow.
Love.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc. Just emeralds, rubies, sapphires. You just spit them like all over the place. And I appreciate you, brother, so very much. Chaun P, any wisdom nuggets that you'd like to leave us with tonight?
Yeah, just real simple. Take time for yourself. Do what you need to do to separate yourself from, you know, the problems of the world. Make sure you're okay mentally, physically, because if you're not okay, how can you take care of others? You know, so always take that time to take care of yourself. And another thing that doesn't get talked about in a lot of our societies is making sure that you're okay with and exploring your sexual energy, your sexual health. That's not talked about. And, you know, a lot of people have a lot of issues because these ideals have been suppressed or taboo. So, you know, don't be afraid to explore your sexual energies, because that is very much a part of your well-being. That's about it.
Ashe. Thank you. Renee, John, Sandy, maybe put that in for your next, like one of the next ciphers on finding your pleasure and accepting, positive sexual energy into your life. Like Leora, yes, amen, 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 amen. Flavia.
Yeah.
Any gems of wisdom you'd like to just briefly, because we got a few minutes.
The most important thing is to say that whenever you feel that you're not okay, don't keep it to yourself. Ask for help. Like, not asking for help, trying to help yourself by yourself, like, is the worst thing you can do to yourself, because sometimes you cannot lead with that. You cannot conduct that the best way. Sometimes you really need help from somebody else. So like Doc and my other colleague that I don't remember the name, sorry, were saying about like self-esteem, about love yourself and everything. And at this point, it's difficult to talk about self-esteem, love yourself, take time to yourself, because we are all isolated from each other's, and we are having much time for ourselves. And sometimes the time that you take for yourself makes you crazy, makes you feel bad, because you don't stop thinking. Your imagination, your thoughts just keep going and going and going and going and going, and just like a looping, you know. So if you don't ask for help, like for a professional, for someone to go on a professional with you, if you are not feeling well to go alone, do that, because it's necessary. Like, don't wait until you are at the worst time of your life to look for help. Just look for help, and probably the professional or the person or a friend or the family that you have will try to do their best. Maybe their best is not the best to do, but they are going to try to do their best. And trying to do their best, they will find with you a way to simply get you well soon. And getting well, it doesn't mean it's going to be quick. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's going to be something that you must understand. You must have faith and believe that you are getting well because you just told someone that you are not okay and you need help. Just say, I'm not okay. And somebody will listen to you and say, that's fine. Come with me. I will help you.
Thank you.
That's my thought. That's the message I want to leave for everybody, for the world. Because if we are not okay and we try to help ourselves alone, sometimes that won't work. It will get worse. So if you need help, ask for help. Doesn't matter to whom, but ask for help. Thanks a lot, babies.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Syntyché, do you have a few words?
If I could offer anything of value, it would be to stay in Cypher, stay in community. Organically, around March, a cohort of us women here, I'm a New Yorker, but I'm in Rockland County right now. And organically, it was just like, Sin, why don't you teach outside? We need to move. We've been stuck inside New York, you know, lockdown, pandemic. And what unfolded in the last year is about 30 women, 30 women in Rockland County and New Jersey, and we are just in community with each other. We talk about our children, we talk about our fears, we educate each other, and that community pulled all of us out of the trauma loop that we didn't even realize we were in. And it was just a bunch of women who got together who wanted to move their bodies. And out of that came this medicine, magical co-creation. It's a healing vortex. I don't know what else to call it. And it is culturally diverse, it's economically diverse, it's spiritually diverse, and being in community is so powerful. It changes your prayer language, it changes the relationship that you have with yourself. It changes our understanding of community and our capacity to heal ourselves and take care of ourselves. We created our own currency, you know what I mean? And that has been the most medicine, is being an interdependent community. And with that, I am complete.
Incredible, incredible. Daoud.
Peace, y'all. So I'm gonna try to keep it concise. Be gentle with yourself. Understand that you're always doing the best you can with the tools that you have. Give yourself permission to learn and to grow, and don't fall victim to retrospect, meaning that when we make mistakes, we can look back at it and say it was stupid, but at the time we didn't know any better. So the experience is what gives us the wisdom. So just allow yourself to experience. And yeah, be gentle. Peace.
Thank you. Brother Buddha.
I'm gonna go on some b-boy tip. When life presents you with ciphers, recognize the wonderful opportunities and the energies that are there, and try to find the courage to engage. And then I'm also going to go round off on the breath thing. I think Doc was talking about it because it's been a big learning thing for me, and it's pretty revealing. I've developed my own thing. So I'm standing in line at an airport, I'm stressed or whatever. I breathe in, and I say to myself, I'm a good person. And I hold my breath, and I say, who cares deeply? And my breath out is, and I'm fucking good enough. You know, and it's my affirmation connected to lots of thought and work on my trauma and past things in my life and whatever. But you know, I gotta retrain my brain constantly because I always revert to lots of old triggers and stuff where I don't think I'm good enough, and it's not okay to mess up. And I don't like the pedestal thing and the leadership thing, and you know, it's complicated. So, you know, work on the breath thing, recognize the cipher, daily gratitude, and be present. Be present with yourself and be present with others. That's a gift I've learned from my son. Some of the most precious moments are just going for a walk and then just chilling by a flower or something, you know. So anyways, I'm very grateful to been here today with everybody.
And we are grateful for you. Thank you. Daniela.
I wanted to say briefly that don't be afraid of uncomfortable emotions, and also practice self-compassion. We tend to be very judgmental with ourselves and the world. And I always tell people, be curious, because how do we change judgment towards self-compassion? Have a curious mind. Instead of making a judgment, place a question. Just ask to yourself and out there, make a question, just place a question with what a teacher of mine usually said. He said, have an appreciative curiosity, no? Which is a very beautiful term I learned from my teacher. And trust your wisdom.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Daniela. Leora, my goddess, please.
So a few things. One is doing the work doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It is an act of self-love to take time for yourself, to explore yourself, to discover all the gems and gold that exists in each and every single one of us. And it is the best time spent. Second is get to know your body. Release the shame. Heal the traumas, whether they're sexual or physical abuse. Heal that, because there's so much truth, pleasure, and wisdom that our bodies have for us. And the last thing is a practice where you can close your eyes and you can see your mother and your father in front of you, and you can look at them and say, I see you and I'm going to do it differently. And then feel their blessing, whether it's around money or love or infidelity or your self-confidence or expanding in the world, whatever it is that the block is, receive their blessing, because no matter what, your ancestors do want to see you surpass, and they don't want to see you suffer in the ways that they suffer.
Ashe, ashe. Thank you all for that. I mean, the wisdom that was shared in this cipher on this blessed day, afternoon or evening, I'm appreciative of, and I'm sure you are as well, Exodus.
I am indeed. I was going to ask you, Dinan, like maybe to give like your quote, your pearl of wisdom.
Well, I love spiritual law, universal law, because there is no other. Man's law means nothing to me. I'll follow it just to keep myself in but spiritual law is it. And I always refer anybody that is just beginning a journey of self-reflection and awareness to understand the law of reflection. Meaning, whatever you see in someone else is what exists within you. And to not avoid the trigger. So much of this, our society and culture is like trigger warnings, and you triggered me, and all of that. When in all actuality, the trigger is just the reflection trying to teach you what you must look at for yourself. So if we would simply just be open to recognizing that the people around us are mirrors of ourselves, of our behaviors, of our shadow, of all the things that we are hiding that we don't want people to see because we wear masks. We put ourselves the best foot forward, and the representative is normally the person that you meet, not the actual person. And if you are willing to dig just a little bit deeper and to understand that that reflection of that individual in front of you, even if they are bothering the hell out of you, it is for you to look at why am I bothered by this person? If you call someone else out of their name, out of their character, it is solely because you believe that about yourself. And so when you start to understand that and take that in, you start to pause a bit more about your judgments of others, because you start to realize that you're judging yourself. And in there, you start to build more compassion. And when you build more compassion, you can share more compassion. And you can feel more for the world and more for others. And you can have, oh my God, empathy. What is that? And all of these other things that are just the natural byproducts of that. So the law of reflection, I would just encourage anybody, just go study universal law. If you study nothing else, that is it. As far as, there's so many people in the spiritual community that just want to focus on the law of attraction and getting things. And because I want this, and I want a car, and I want a house, and I want all this nonsense. But if your vibration does not match what you are wishing to attract to you, good luck, because you're wasting your time. So if anything, law of reflection.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to finish off by saying thank you all for sharing your soul energy. It's amazing, like, because this is your time, and this whole conversation and panel wouldn't have worked if we were all closed. Everyone was open and sharing. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate yourselves, and I appreciate all those listening. And I just want to say thank you to Raquel from Generation Hip Hop, and thank you to Apollonia, thank you to Natalie, and thank you to man like Renee John Sandy. Thank you to Dinan as well. Yeah, and I'll pass that on because I could drop a pearl of wisdom, but like I think you've all done like amazingly. So yeah, thank you.
Completely. Such an honor. Such an honor.
Yeah, I appreciate you all.
Renee, closing words of wisdom, like Russell Simmons coming in at the end of Thank you all for coming out. God bless you. Goodbye.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say, this has been an amazing 3-hour conversation that's just gone by so fast. And, the wisdom, all the gems, like just, diving deep on like so many different topics is just amazing. And I want to just acknowledge everybody here on this panel, for one, because of your journey, like the courage and the vulnerability that you've taken on these steps, on these paths, to get where you are, you had to really look at yourself and really do work on yourself to be doing the work that you've done. And that's definitely not easy for those who've definitely been doing this work, and you have to continue to do it. So I definitely want to give, the flowers and the love to everybody here for this, taking that on, because it's not an easy path to take on. For all those who are out there listening, like I can say myself, I'm a testament to a few of the people here on this panel, working with them in different capacities with their, with their with their talents and what they're doing, their gems and their gifts, what they're giving to people in their lives. So definitely, you know, you can look on our page on the GECS Summit, it's GECSUMMIT on Instagram, and you can find out all the hashtags, the handles of everybody that's participating in this. Definitely look at, you know, follow them, look at what they're doing. And, you know, if there's something that sparks and, you feel, you know, just something that like resonates with you to even have a conversation with them and more interest about it, even, you know, doing a session or something, definitely, you know, try it out. It's, you know, it's something, you know, it can't hurt, you know, like, you know, many people have said here, explore. Definitely want to thank Natalie, Raquel, and Apollonia, like our whole GECS Summit team that, you know, put in countless hours of work to make this happen, you know, every day. You know, we do this every day, you know, having our group chats and conversation and Zoom convos. It's, you know, we do a lot to make this stuff work, and, you know, really appreciative of everyone, of how, you know, just the diligence of just continuing to do this. Thanks to all of the organizers, organizing organizations like Generation Hip Hop, Hip Hop Movimiento, Culture Fix, Union Music Executive, Hip Hop Loves, obviously, that just been putting in a lot of work, you know, as far as putting this together. And we really look forward to actually being able to do this in person. Exodus, Dinan, just want to say thank you for being, you know, great co-moderators today. You really, did, like, the shit was just really, you know, just set the stage. I wouldn't say the shit became like this spaceship, like a ship on water that just started flying up in the galaxy and just went into many different, you know, many different levels, which has been amazing. So, you know, thank you all for, you know, thank you both for really, you know, creating a space for everybody to be able to share, you know, and give the time to share what they want to share. You know, it's really important. So, you know, thanks everybody. Once again, you know, you can follow us at GECS Summit on Instagram. We do this normally every second Saturday of the month. We have a different one next month in June. We'll actually be on the third Saturday, and it will be the architects of the global hip hop community. So we're going to have hip hop pioneers from all over the world and have a whole conversation around that. But I am going to add, we are going to do a part 2 to this at some point soon. And definitely because, you know, these conversations are much needed. And, you know, we need to continue and grow this, you know, and really dive deeper. Like, it's funny, Dinan, when you're talking about, hey, let's do talk about the sexting. Yeah, that's something we definitely need to explore on, you know, within that as well. So, you know, everyone stay tuned on that. So much love to everyone out there. Thanks for, you know, being a part of it. And as you want to say on some Russell Simmons, God bless, have a good night, good evening, good day, whatever it may be. Love everybody. One love.